It is time for a moment with Marin. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the show.
Hello, thank you for joining me. I was just about ready to write a response to an email, and I thought, other people seem to have this question, so I would like to answer it via video. The question goes kind of like this: the afterlife. If one commits suicide, what happens? If one does not achieve the life goals that were set before incarnation, what happens? What happens on the other side with other members of a family who have crossed over and who have been very abusive in this life? Can they be avoided? Does one have to reincarnate again with them, etc.? So we're going to kind of go through this bit by bit. So if one commits suicide, the only thing that's going to happen is this body ceases. So this body dies, just like as if you were in a car accident, just like if you had cancer, just like if you an accident happened and the body ceased. Your consciousness, your spirit or soul, is instantly already on the other side of the veil. There is no waiting period. There is no timeout. There is no recovery zone. You are instantly in a place that is all-encompassing compassion and love and humility, and those words don't even begin to describe where your soul is. So in a very great, beautiful, loving, welcoming place. Now, if one does not achieve life goals that were set here before incarnation, that would be a huge problem because you are experiencing absolutely everything that this life has to offer and every single end point that this life has to offer. That's how it becomes whole, total, and complete, with no carryover to the other side or to another life experience. There's nothing you're not learning in this one that you're going to have to come back and learn in another one. You may not be able to see all of these different trajectories play out from kind of this vantage point. But if we look at it, and I've been using this a lot lately just because it's easy to understand. If we look at it like an apple, if I hold the apple up to you and I say, okay, now look at this apple. Okay, so I'm holding it by the stem and the apple's right there. Can you see the whole apple? Can you see the bottom of the apple? Can you see the sides of the apple? Can you see inside the apple? And can you see the back side of the apple? And even the top of the apple behind the stem. Can you see the back of the stem? The answer is no. And that's because we live in a third-dimensional world. We live on a third-dimensional plane, meaning that because we are inside the third dimension, we can only see or two-dimensionally, okay? Our life is three-dimensional, meaning that we are just like the apple that I am holding up right now, or the pretend apple that I am holding up right now. And our life is like that. So the only thing that we're seeing of our life right now is what is directly in front of the eyes on this trajectory that I am on. When we are created, when the sperm hit the egg and inception happened, and then it's basically our incarnation exploded like a firework, okay? And at the center of that firework is a very special particle, and that particle is you. And for me, for my inception, my conception, I am the center of that explosion for my particle, okay? Now, every single one of those rays that's coming off that sun or coming off that firework is another vantage point or perspective or experience that this life is going to happen. And just like that explosion happened all at the same time, every single event that we are going to be experiencing, every single side to every single choice, is happening simultaneously, just like the firework. It's not shooting out one and then shooting out another and then shooting out another and then shooting out another. At that conception, it's a zinc explosion, and it explodes like the sun, like a big bang. So if we die and we've only lived from point A to point B, then we wouldn't have existed. So that would be a big problem. So the good thing is you are experiencing and you are achieving everything that this life is going to achieve. Good and bad. All right. What happens on the other side? What happens on the other side with members of family who have crossed over and have been very abusive? Can they be avoided? Their lives, just like yours, are whole, total, and complete. Meaning that there were trajectories when they were very, very abusive, and there were trajectories when they were not abusive. And when this body expires, when this body is done, all of these trajectories come together and play a whole. This body, the human form, is not on the other side of the veil. It is not ethereal. The body is a tool for our consciousness to observe life through this particular body. Me for me, you for you. Once this body is done, so I've used the apple before, but we're going to go back to symphony. We're going to say that our overarching consciousness is like a symphony, okay? And every single note within that symphony, so just try to imagine how many notes make up a symphony. And if the symphony is ongoing, think of the number of notes that symphony needs for every single instrument, right? When this body is whole, total, and complete, and this body ceases, we become one of those music notes in the grand symphony. It's a very important music note. It's a very important part of that symphony. So we are not going up there and risking running into an abuser. When somebody abuses or someone has evil acts here on earth, that's something wrong with this physical body, okay? It's a mechanical error. It has to do with the chemical and electrical processes within the brain. So one way we can look at that is, we could have a dog and the dog gets rabies. Well, it was a wonderful family pet before, and then it got rabies and had parasites attacking its brain and put it into great pain. And so it attacked everything around it, and they ended up having to I'm thinking of Old Yeller, so they had to put Old Yeller to sleep, darn it. Which they did with a gun. Sometimes we are born, or people are born with chemical or electrical imbalances. Sometimes we have predisposition to violence, and if something happens environmentally, we can turn on or off that predisposition. But that evil act and that cruelty does not continue on the ethereal side. That is wholly something wrong with this mechanical body that is temporary here. So you're not going to be running into them. That was a very long way to say that. You're going to be safe and sound and very well cared for. Does one have to reincarnate with them again? So this is another misnomer, that we are coming down and participating in life in what some people would call a soul group. And I guess there's like 6 or 7 souls. There's one primary soul and then some sub-souls or something. You're not coming back down to play life out again with the same characters. Okay, so if we think of that, just want you to think of like a movie series. So let's use Meg Ryan. Think of all the movies that Meg Ryan did. After a while, so she did a couple movies. Everybody loved her, and When Harry Met Sally, and was she Sleepless in Seattle too? She might have been Sleepless in Seattle. I don't know. But after a while, she began playing the same part. And when she and Tom Hanks started playing out movies together, so they did, maybe it was Sleepless in Seattle, and then You've Got Mail or something like that. I looked these up previously, and I can't remember them all. Their characters get stale, even though they're playing different characters. It's the same group. It's the same thing. If we want a fresh life experience, we would not be coming down with the same people or the same souls, because it really wouldn't make sense. The familiarity would always be there, and it wouldn't be a fresh life. It wouldn't be a complete, unique life experience, because we would be running into the same souls. Our overarching consciousness is, think of it as an orchard, and every single life is one of the apples in that orchard. So we're not going to be picking one apple. If we pick an apple off of one tree, we can't go and stick that apple on a different tree. It doesn't stick. Like, I can't fuse its stem onto another tree and pretend it's part of that tree. The apple over on this tree is part of that tree in the orchard. It is not any other apple on that tree in the orchard. It is itself. And the apples over here on these life experience apples over here on these other trees, they're just as unique and non-replicable, and they are not coming back down with the same apples over and over and over again. I hope that helped explain it all. Okay. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for joining me.